Hi everybody and welcome to today's webinar. Could you please let me know if you can hear me? Please use the question box to kind of type in yes if you can hear me. That's great, we're getting lots of yeses. Okay, so we're good to start. So hi everybody and welcome to today's webinar on financial reports and decision making. Today we're joined by Lita Epstein, who is an accounting and bookkeeping expert. Today's webinar will last around 45 minutes. We will be taking questions throughout the webinar, so please use the question box if you have a question at any point during the webinar. I'm now going to hand you over to Lita Epstein.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for coming today. What we're going to be talking about is one of my favorite subjects, which is financial reports and decision making, and how that information can be used to make good decisions for your own companies. We're going to be focusing on the advantages of internal reports. Most of you are familiar with the external reports that are sent out that everybody can see in the public. But the internal reports have a lot of advantages to make it easier for you to use them for managing purposes. One key advantage is that there are no accounting rules. International accounting rules can be very strict, and so you can only use the numbers in a certain way in order to meet those rules. But when it comes to internal reports, the rules are totally out of play, and the company can use the data that's in their accounting system in whatever way they choose to help them make decisions. So you can design reports that will give you the information you need, not reports that are going to meet some public government requirement. The accounting system stores lots of data to help you manage your company or department. And so you might as well take advantage of that to make it easier for you to make decisions. The key is discovering how to manipulate that data for your management needs. Today we're going to focus on 5 key internal reports that are good examples of how you can use that data. Basically, there's an unlimited number of internal reports that can be created, and their only limit is the limit of your own design capabilities or the design capabilities of your accounting department. But the 5 we'll focus on today are profit and loss, prior year comparison, income by customer summary, expenses by vendor summary, AR aging summary, which is accounts receivable, that's where your collections essentially happen, and then the payroll summary, details about your staffing and how it's being impacted. A lot of times companies want to monitor overtime. They may want to monitor the cost of their benefits. There are different ways that you can use that payroll summary. As we go into each of these reports, I'll show them on the screen using QuickBooks, and then we're going to open it for questions on a report-by-report basis, so we can talk about the report while it's still on the screen. I'm using QuickBooks because that's probably the most commonly used accounting program. About 80% of small businesses use that program. Large corporations usually have a program designed specifically for the company, but they still have access to similar kinds of reports. And if you're using other types of accounting programs, most of them have similar kind of reports available as well. If you do like a format, you can pass it on to your accounting department and see if they can design something similar for you using your own accounting data. And we are going to be using an existing demonstration company provided by QuickBooks. Now I'm going to switch over to QuickBooks. And this is a product-based company. They also have similar companies for retail-based, a little bit different. But what you're seeing now on the screen is the profit and loss prior year comparison. And as you can see, this one is looking at 2018 to 2017. It's a future look. And they can see from this report very quickly how the construction income has differed. In 2017, this particular company had only $3,400 in design income, and you can see they've increased their design income by 980% and their labor income by 1321. So it's giving the company a very good idea of how their profits, where their profits are coming from, what type of income is being affected by it. They can also look down further to their cost of goods sold. Oops, went a little too far there. And see where their expenses are, how their expenses are changing. As you can see, job materials also went up dramatically, but not as much as the income, so that's a good sign. And then you can down to your expenses and see how it's impacting your expenses on a line-by-line basis. So it's very useful for planning to see how the company is improving, or maybe you may find it's not improving in certain areas, but you can quickly see where the line items are. Like here for loan interest, the change is down by 55%, which is a good thing for loan. But had that been income, it certainly would be a bad thing. So it gives a company on a line-by-line basis a way to very, very quickly determine what is changing in the company financially, and then they can go down and use this program. As you can see with reports, let's say you wanted to find out some detail on your prior year comparison. You can then go into profit and loss detail and look at line items here, construction income, on a customer by customer basis. And you get a sense of how your income is changing. And you can ask for these detailed reports based on which line items are of the most interest to you. And here's another possible one, as a profit and loss by job. In this particular company, it's a construction company. So they can look at it, as you can see, on a job-by-job basis and see how their profit was impacted by what type of customer, and make some decisions on planning for bidding future jobs for that type of customer. Do I have any questions regarding the profit and loss by job or by prior year comparison?
There's no questions at the moment, Lita.
Okay, then I'm going to go on to the next type, and this is the one that most people find very useful if they're doing sales. This is your income by customer summary. And you can see, in your case, whatever your company is doing, what is the most profitable customer, and then you can also see if there's changes, if there's a trend, and that customer, you know, from prior years has been doing more than current years. So here's your company income summary on a yearly basis, and you can see, you can go right in and see every single customer and exactly what they have done. Now let's take and compare that, doing a customer detail, and then you can actually get down to exactly what invoices were involved, what sales receipts were involved, what they've paid, what they haven't paid, and you can get a very, very quick assessment of any customer with the detail from your accounting system. And you may find that a particular customer in the past has been ordering a certain thing on a very regular basis, and all of a sudden they stopped ordering. It might be time to send out maybe a regional manager or another person to that location to find out if there's something in the sales relationship that is harming sales. And it may not be that the customer has stopped doing that type of business. It may just be that they've stopped doing it with you, and you need to find out why. So your customer detail helps you to, as a manager, sit in the office and figure out where the changes are, figure out what customers are changing their order patterns, and then determine where you may want to send additional staff, either regional managers, district managers, or even yourself as the owner of a company, if you own a company, just to find out why there is a change and why the customer is changing behavior. So the income by customer detail can be a very, very, very powerful report for managing sales staff, and also for managing your income if you're seeing a fluctuation in income trends. Do I have any questions on this kind of report?
Lita, we have one question here, and it's from Yelena, who wants to know, can this be exported to Excel?
These from QuickBooks, you can export into Excel and then manipulate the information further depending on how you want to use it. You also can, I guess this report doesn't allow it. Some of the reports in QuickBooks you can actually reorder based on a particular column. This one is not letting me do that. But let me see. It would have to, within QuickBooks you can play with, but you definitely can pull this into an Excel spreadsheet and then be able to manipulate the data the way that you find most appropriate for your uses.
Thank you, Lita. There's no further questions.
Okay. Now the same thing can be done on the expense side. So here's your expenses by vendor summary, and this is how you can quickly see where your money is going, who you're paying the most money to, and you can ask for a year by year comparison if you want to compare. There's another report I don't seem to have. Let me see if I have that in a year by year. I don't see a year by year comparison here, but you can take your profit and loss detail if you want to do year by year and do that from that perspective. And you can also design a report and have a report set up by customer that would show you the current year and show you the year before. That's definitely an internal report that would be very useful if you're trying to manage your expenses. And then those expense reports can also be in a detailed format. So you can see exactly where you're spending your money with each vendor, what type of things you're buying and using. And it's another type of thing which you also might, as somebody said, can you put this into an Excel spreadsheet? And this one you can also as well. And that would be a way of managing if you're seeing a trend, taking a quick look here. Let's say all of a sudden, in this case I'm looking at Bayshore Water, and all of a sudden your water bill starts going up dramatically. Here you can see it's exactly $24 a month. But let me go down to one that's seeing major differences. In this case, you have a CU Electric subcontractor. Most of their bills have been under $1,000, and then all of a sudden you see there's one for $1,500. If you don't remember a bill coming in from a vendor and it's considerably higher than what you're used to paying that vendor, this is the kind of report where you can quickly see there's a major difference that you might want to check into as a manager. So it can be a very helpful report for managing your expense side of your department. Do I have any questions?
No questions, Lita.
Okay. Then we'll go to the AR, and this has to do with customer collections. Basically, are your customers paying their bills? First, I'll show you the AR summary. And what this shows you is whether your customers are current, whether they're 1 to 30 days late, 31 to 60 days late, 61 to 90, or 90 or more. Most companies will decide to cut off a customer at either the 61 to 90 days or the 90 days or more, depending on the business. Some businesses are used to it, having longer time periods even for payment. For example, a medical clinic knows that insurance companies can be a very long time paying here in the U.S. I'm not sure how it works on the government in the U.K. and how the payments are working, how long it takes to collect from what might be a government pay system. But this is a good way of following your collections. As you can see, everyone here, this one is showing everybody paying on time. That is unusual. Most companies will be showing some late payment. And what you can see is that if you're starting to see late payments from a particular company, you can ask for this report in aging detail. And you can see the invoices by customer. And you can see what your terms were, and you can see what the due date was, and then when they paid. So it gives you a good, unfortunately we don't have anything here on the 1 to 30 in this example, but it would give you the customers based on their pay schedule and how quickly they're paying the company. And if you're seeing a customer start shifting from paying you on time to paying you 1 to 30 days and then paying you 31 to 60 days, you know you've got a customer that may be in trouble, and it may be time to start looking at it before you end up with a huge past due and a customer with a lot of product that they're never going to pay for and may end up even in bankruptcy. So it's a way of seeing very quickly with this aging detail if you have a customer in trouble or a customer that for some reason you can't trust and may not want to continue selling until they start getting their bills up to date. Do I have any questions?
There's no questions, Lita. I'm actually getting a lot of questions of people asking about the recording, and I'm replying to them individually. But if there's anybody on here that would like to get the recording to the webinar, please email info@webinarsteam.com. That's info@webinarsteam.com.
Okay, very good. And if you would like to attach to this webinar, do you think you'd want to attach reports? I could put them into some kind of a PDF. Maybe you can attach them to the webinar so people can have a report page to look at as well.
I think that would be very useful, yeah, Lita, because people are asking for demo reports by email for download. I've had a few of those.
Okay, great. So let me see if I can, I've got to manipulate some things here in QuickBooks myself and see how to best get that to you in a PDF format. But I'll get that to you later today, and then you can put it up on the website.
That's great. I've just had another question here. The question is, what is the grace period that you would normally give for non-paying customers?
It's going to depend on the type of business. In some cases, a lot of times what businesses will do if they're starting to have problems with payment is they'll kind of sense from other similar businesses to see how long they wait. Most businesses, if they're in a retail store business and they have to pay their bills themselves in 30 to 60 days, they can't let their customers go more than 30 to 60 days or their business is going to start being late on bills. So a lot of times it has to do with your own billing structure and how much you can afford to wait for payment. In some construction businesses, they may wait a little bit longer because they know, let's say in housing construction, they know it takes a bit longer for the builder to actually get the money from the bank. So let's say a builder has to have a completion of, let's say, 30% to get a payment. They know how long it takes for the builder to get to that point. They may allow a builder 60 days. But whatever contract you're going to do, and you might even do this on a customer-by-customer basis depending on the industry, is you state those terms when you first sign a contract to do business with that particular company. And then you'll have to see from your own trends, historically, are most customers in that type of business paying you in 35 days? Are most customers paying you in 65 days? You don't want to set terms that are too strict that you get to the point where customers know they can't pay you within the time you set in your terms, and then they decide to go to somebody else who's offering more flexible terms. So another way to do it is if you have your salespeople out there, they can kind of maybe find out what other people in similar types of businesses are doing in the way of terms. Because the key thing you want to do is have terms that pretty much match the industry that you're in. And if you have them too lenient, you might get all the bad payers coming to you because they can't get anybody else to sell to them. And if you make them too tight, you might have people going to others where they can get better terms for the way their business operates. So it's kind of an industry by industry decision.
Thank you, Lita. We have another one here. The person wants to know, what about invoices in query? Is there any way to put a note on individual invoices that show on the report?
That would have to be something within the accounting system you have. If you're going into the aging detail, let me go back to the other screen. And that's the nice thing about internal reports is you come up with something that you need, you talk to your accounting department and they might be able to design something within their system. But here, by looking at the aging summary this way, you can quickly see which customers are causing problems because of these columns. And then what you might do is you see a customer having a lot of invoices in the 31 to 60 or 61 to 90-day columns, then you might want to ask for a more detailed report for that particular customer. This way, with the summary report, you can quickly look at your customers, see where your problem customers are, and then get your additional detail instead of having to have the detail on every single customer. It just saves you a whole lot of time.
Lita, we have another one here, more of a general question. Can this be used if data is exported from typed documents and handwritten PDF documents?
I'm not sure what we're talking about and being, I'm not sure I understand that question.
Okay, Alistair, so perhaps rephrase your question, and we'll get Lita to answer that.
Maybe a little example of what he's thinking of.
And then we have another one here. I mean, can you send example reports in Excel, not PDF, as we use Sage, so we would need to design our own. If they are not available in Sage, that would save me a lot of time.
Let me see if I can export. I'm sure I can export. It's showing saving as a PDF as the reports. Let me look at this a little closer, and if I can do both a PDF and an Excel file, I will. Right now I'm seeing a save as a PDF. Let me see. I don't see an export. Oh, here's export. Okay. Yeah, what it's telling me, if I want to export lists to IFF files, addresses to text file, and then timer lists. And then there's a convert. There's a convert from Quick and Peachtree. Yeah, I know I can do the, unfortunately, it doesn't appear as though I can export in anything other than the PDF for the reports themselves. The data, when it comes to QuickBooks, the data is definitely exportable to other programs, and I think there's something like 100 different software that can communicate with QuickBooks. But unfortunately, the reports themselves can only go out as a PDF from what I can find quickly. I'll do a little bit more research and go into help and even give QuickBooks a call to see if there's any other way I can do this report.
I've just had a message here from Nicholas who says there is an Excel menu on the window.
There is an Excel menu on the window. Huh.
He's saying that maybe you can use that to export.
Oh. Okay. As I said, instead of taking up the time of the class, let me play. Oh, I see Excel up here. Okay. Create a new worksheet or update existing worksheet. So maybe what I can do is create a worksheet. That's a good choice. Let me experiment that outside of class, and I will try to see if I can create an Excel worksheet using one of these reports, and if I can, I'll send it that way. How's that sound?
That's great, Lita. Thanks. We've just got another question, and it basically is from Salman, who wants to know, I see you are using QuickBooks. Is this your preference over other accounting software?
It's the one I'm most used to. When I wrote Bookkeeping for Dummies, I used the QuickBooks because at that time the research showed 80% of small businesses were using QuickBooks. And so that was sort of the audience for that particular course. I also used it for my bookkeeping classes on Excel with Business because it's true for still that QuickBooks is probably still up there. Maybe it's 70 to 75%, but it's still the preferred version for a lot of businesses today. But the others are very, very similar. I find Peachtree is more accounting oriented, and so it's not as intuitive as QuickBooks, which is why a lot of small companies don't use it, because unless you have accounting training, Peachtree can be a little bit harder to use. And those are your two big ones when it comes to accounting software. I think Xero is an online-based system. I tend to hesitate to put any kind of accounting information online, given the kind of hacking that's going on. So I tend to, when it comes to accounting systems, I like them to be in a private venue. So I don't tend to recommend any of the online programs, but that's a personal preference on security issues. Any other questions?
There's no further questions at the moment, Lita.
Let me go on to the last category of types of reports, and that's employee and payroll. And here's your payroll summary. And this will be on an employee by employee basis. But here you can quickly see which employees are doing a lot of overtime. Oops. Managing overtime is one of the big things. Whether employees have a lot of sick time, whether they have a lot of vacation time. This is a quick way to see whether you have employees that are doing things that you may or may not like. And then you can do by detail and get a report that takes it into greater detail. And your company can decide what items they want in the payroll summary. What do they want to look at? What type of things do they want to watch? Wage base, payroll items. You can put as many items that you have actually in your data system and make a report as large as you have it. But here you can actually look on a customer basis, see what their overtime rate is in their paycheck, the payroll items. And it's a great way to manage your staff costs quickly just by using the data in a system, and then it may raise questions about a particular employee's use of overtime or sick time or any other issue, and it gives you something that you can then have hard data as to be able to talk to the employee and find out why they're having so much more overtime than everybody else, or why they're taking so much sick time, and be able to manage your staff more easily by having these quick types of reports out of your payroll system. Any questions?
Has anybody got any questions for Lita? Here we go. Here we've got one here from Alistair, who says, we have a handwritten sign in sheets for visitors at my office, and we occasionally need to find if someone attended on a certain day and time. These are scanned onto our system. Can we export this PDF data to Excel and use facilities such as filter to find information?
Wow, that's a good question. That's beyond my technical capabilities here. I don't know if there's any. I don't know of any software program. Do you know of any that can do that kind of a scan and then go into Excel? I'm not. They probably exist. I'm not aware of any.
Has anyone else got a question for Lita?
Does anyone listening know of software that might help out Alistair?
There's somebody here saying PDF Pro can convert to Excel.
Ah, great, thank you.
Again, lots of people are asking for the recording, and again, lots of sort of thank you comments coming in, Lita. So people asking for the recording. Please email info@webinarsteam.com for a recording, and we'll get that sent to you by the end of the week.
And I will pull together, I'll send both PDFs and Excel files on each of the 5 reports that I've used here, and I'll try to get them to you by tomorrow. I'm heading out to take my mom to a doctor, so I can't get them out right away, but I'll try to have them for you by tomorrow. Okay, is there anything else? There's no other questions. I want to thank everybody for their time. It's good to meet you, even if it's just online this way. And
Lita, we have a question here. The question is, now they're all coming in, lots of sort of thank yous coming in. The question is there a way to have a sign? No, not that one. There's some of these questions are really difficult to read because they're phrased in very difficult to understand. Does QuickBooks remove the need for an external accountant?
It all depends upon, I think that QuickBooks, for a lot of small companies, they will have somebody trained to do QuickBooks working with, let's say, an outside accountant, and then the accountant can actually, with QuickBooks, can actually get your data files, and they'll have the accountant do maybe the quarterly reports or the annual reports, just have a backup to be sure that nothing funny is happening in your system. The nice thing about doing it that way, it gives you another check to be sure who's ever entering data is doing it correctly. When it comes to accounting, it's always a good idea to have an outside eye and not have one person who has total control over your financial systems. So having an accountant check it maybe on a quarterly basis is probably enough for most companies to feel safe that their numbers are accurate, and also the accountant can pick up if there are any problems happening mid-year so that you don't end up waiting till the end of the year, bringing everything to an accountant to do your taxes, and then finding out everything in your payroll, everything in your accounting system has been put in incorrectly, or some aspects of it incorrectly. So I usually think it's a good idea to have a professional accountant to take a look at it, but it does make it easier to manage the data and have the data done by a staff person, and then have your accountant just do the stuff that you need a professional accountant to do.
Lita, we have another one here. I'm sure you are familiar with Sage. How do you feel it compares with QuickBooks?
Sage is, well, it used to be called Peachtree, and I use the old terminology. I find that Sage is an excellent program, but I find that it's not as intuitive for QuickBooks when it comes to individuals that do not have accounting training. Sage is more designed for someone who has accounting training, knows all the accounting terminology. I don't know if they've gotten better. I didn't look at this year's package, but that's always been the complaint when you look at reviews, that Sage is not as intuitive for a non-accountant as QuickBooks.
Lita, I think that's all the questions.
Great.
So Lita is the author of the Accounting and Bookkeeping, Basic Management and Accounting and Payroll, along with the Start Your Own Business courses. They're all available on our website, so take a look at those if you haven't already. Thank you for coming, everybody, and have a great day. Thank you, Lita.
Thank you.